May 17th, 2021. This is the Carver Finance Committee calling to order at 7 p.m. Can we all rise for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated. Meeting's being recorded by Area 58. Thank you, Fran and Fran. I see nobody here for public comment. So we're going to go right to reorganization. Mr. LaFawn, would you take the position for the nominations and the new chair? I will officially step down.
Oh, that's very nice of you. I'll save the speech then?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Very good then. Are there any, we'll take nominations for chair, one at a time. There may be several, but
I'll nominate Alan Germain for chair of the Finance Committee.
is there a second?
Second.
Are there other nominations? Hearing none. All those in favor of Mr. Germain for chair, say aye.
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 All those opposed?
Aye.
And I pass the gavel back to you, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations to you.
What did I ever do to all of you? We'll take the nominations for vice chair.
I make a nomination to vote Adam Holmes for vice chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further nominations? On the question for Adam Holmes for vice chair, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Town Administrator, Finance Director update, CARES Act, ARPA, and whatever other good news you got for us.
I'll let you go, CARES Act.
You can sit together if you want.
That's okay. If she can correct me or jump in to save me at some point. Start with ARPA. I'm sorry, CARES Act. Right now, as people are probably aware, we had about $1.7 million designated for town of Carver's usage. As you probably know, it's a reimbursement program, so we have to spend funds in advance. Unfortunately, it can be difficult to spend $1.7 million in advance with the hope of getting reimbursement. As of right now, we have approximately $400,000 to $500,000 in remaining capacity. We've submitted about $1.3 million, and we have about $850,000 still being in the review stage by the county. We have till December 31st to file our last reimbursements subject to this particular act. As far as the discernment process, there's 4 layers of scrutiny by the county. The first 2 are by basically by financial CPA staff. The third is by the county treasurer, and finally the commissioners themselves. Obviously, the major scrutiny is at the first 2 stages, so it is taking a little bit of time. We have our first. Our first reimbursement was submitted last July, and it took approximately 6 months for us to get those figures. So it's a slow process, but we are on top of it. The only thing that we're trying to be aware of is that we want to save some spending capacity as we go down the stretch towards the end of the calendar year for unforeseen items that may be related to COVID. That being said, again, with a capacity of about 400,000, I think we do have some projects that we'd like to do that we hope may be reimbursable. One is the air handlers in this particular building. There's 7 units, and rather than using the portable units, we're hoping that that might be a project that could be suitable. We're not too sure yet, but we do have some reviewing the possibility of our library air circulation system as a possible reimbursement item too. We will be, in the morning, our department heads don't know it yet, but probably forming a small internal task force just to monitor this. And also, the biggest challenge right now is finding legitimate projects that we are very confident will be reimbursed. Unfortunately, as Mr. O'Brien, Tom O'Brien, the county treasurer, has informed us, just because something is reimbursable in one community doesn't mean, excuse me, it would be reimbursable in another community. The various criteria, the project or item has to be something that was not funded, something that is specifically for COVID-related use, and third, something that you would not have otherwise purchased but for COVID. So that's a challenge, as you can see. And to put out those kinds of funds and hoping for reimbursement is a little bit disconcerting. But we give it our best. Any questions as far as the additional ARA funds? Right now, there are still no specs on how those funds can be spent. We do know that we expect that final specs will allow us to be filling gaps in revenue that we've experienced. Then obviously those have to be documented. There's also the ability, again, these are loose specs, these have not been confirmed yet. We don't have anything in writing that says these are indeed what we're able to spend funds on. We are able to spend funds on personnel who had to work through the pandemic to provide critical services. Those are the types of spending that are different than those we're allowed to do under the current CARES Act. Are there other specific items, categories, Meg, that you can think of that are of importance at this time? Okay. The other items, Mike,
I
get
had
right
a
into that?
question. The check that was given at the school,
Yes.
Tom O'Brien was there.
Yes.
That check was
About $185,000.
yeah, and that was
roughly.
like the number 4th in the sequence. There was the number 3 we haven't received yet. Is that correct? The number 3 involves the Cascade machine, if you...
That's correct. There were the answers.
We don't know what's going on with that?
Yes and no, because we actually submitted 2 at the same time, the one you just referenced, Mr. Chairman, and there was also a smaller request for $20,000 related to Old Colony Votech. So we did receive the reimbursement for the $20,000, but we did not receive any reimbursement yet for the $289,000 request that you're referencing. That is, I have confirmed, that is currently under review by the county. Mr. O'Brien has informed me that that is the case. In fact, I believe Meg was asked for any further backup information today on that. So hopefully we'll see that at this point in a relatively timely manner. The funds that were provided to the town, turned over to the town in the form of a check at the last select board meeting, was about $182,000 of a request that was about $195,000. So there were some items that were discounted, and again, that's part of the challenge. You want to be able to maximize your funds, right, but you have to know in a timely manner how many things may be disqualified. But that did include $22,000 for a vehicle for the EMS for COVID response. So that was a significant piece that we had hoped to get. But the pavilion and bathrooms, as well as the system, the air system for the fire department, those are all contained in this $289,000 request that are currently under review.
And prior to that, we got a check for $28,000 that was something to do with Old Colony?
That was about $20,000, yes.
What was that for?
That was for the...
I heard Old Colony, so
yeah,
it wasn't...
the Votech was doing the same thing as most systems, buying PPE and other types of materials. That $20,000 was the Carver share by the formula for the district, how costs are currently divided among the towns.
Right.
So it was Carver's piece of those expenses. Old Colony Votech is not eligible to apply directly to the county. They don't have an allotment designated just for them.
So we would have had to pay it, and
right. The member
CARES Act
towns
reimbursed us for that expense.
Well, they paid the bill, and they worked through each town to pay.
Right.
So it's essentially the same thing, yes.
Yeah.
So.
No, I just was curious as to what that was for, because I hadn't heard about it. Anybody have any questions on the CARES Act? Tell us about, you all set?
I am.
Tell us about ARPA.
Want to give it a shot, Meg? Give it a shot.
I think a lot of people are not familiar with it. That's why that's the only reason I'm asking.
Well, just briefly, and again, maybe I'll don't be afraid, Meg, okay?
Can't scare Meg anymore. She's beyond
Yeah.
scareable.
These are the funds that are appropriated as, yeah, she's got nothing to lose at this point, Mr. Chairman. So, these are the funds that were designated for, through the states to cities and towns by the most recent, the acronym, anybody, help me with the acronym, ARPA? Yes. Very, very public legislation by the federal government to help cities and towns, states, cities and towns with coping with the COVID. We have approximately, what is the difference between the COVID CARES Act funding and the ARPA funding? Do you have-
Administrations?
I thought
No,
you
I mean,
didn't have to spend it
the
to
funds
get it back.
itself.
I'm sorry, what was your?
No, we have over $1 million that would be designated in addition to the COVID funds
Yeah.
for that purpose.
We don't have to spend it first and apply for reimbursement, is that correct?
That is correct. That is
So this
correct.
is a different process
Right.
in that
Different.
we'll know if we can do it,
Right.
or if we're going to get it before we spend the money to do it.
There's I think between Meg and I and some of our counterparts, we've seen about 4 webinars on this, and nobody can really tell you at this time
That's awesome.
exactly what the parameters are going to be, but
And I'm not sure I'd be like so clear that we're definitely getting it directly, because I think Tom O'Brien.
We don't know
sounds
that.
like he's up in the air on this, because there's a choice. He initially told me that it was coming directly to the town, and that part of it might go to the county, but last time when he was at the school, he made it seem like we weren't sure if it was coming directly to the town. So,
Yeah, they don't know how it's going to be administratively.
exactly.
Whether
So,
it's going to go through the county or not. Jared had said the same thing when I talked with him, Jared Valenzola, and he said they've come out with this and they've made fanfare of it, and there's no directions that came with it. Didn't come with instructions. They're working on that.
I mean, they have some allowable, they've been clear about allowable expenditures, public health, water, sewer, broadband,
That's good.
possible revenue offset.
Water lines?
Good. Anybody on ARPA? Any questions?
As we get more information, we'll pass it along, but right now, we're in the same stage as everybody else, waiting for definitive guidelines.
Perfect. Everybody's good? While we have Mr. LaFond up there, Meg, everybody knows by now, I'm sure, that our beloved finance director is leaving for I guess we'd call it a really a good career move for you. It's a better position in a bigger town that will more challenge her abilities. And there's a part of me that's very angry that she's leaving because she's very qualified and she's going to be hard to replace. And there's a part of me that's absolutely thrilled that she's leaving because it's a better move for her personally. So there's a love-hate thing going on. But I know I speak for, I believe, the entire board when I say thank you. Just, we could never, when I came onto this position and was the first elected chairman, I knew nothing. And it was the hours that were spent driving this lady crazy and walking me through it so that it could get to where I understood enough that, and then the committee grew from there, and no matter what it is I've ever asked Meg, I think whatever anyone here has asked Meg, she's been right on the spot. And so I just want to say thank you. And I wish you the very, very best of luck. I'm sure we're going to see plenty more of you before you go, but this is really the first meeting since this had become public. So to you, Meg LeMay. Now, are you sufficiently embarrassed?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's it. We need to put a representative, based on the last town meeting vote. The capital outlay bylaw passed. The capital outlay committee will now contain 5 members. 1 will be a representative of the select board. That will be Jim Hoffman, who has been appointed. 1 will be a representative of the school committee. That will be Andy Cottarelli, who is now the vice chair of the school committee, so he's been appointed to the capital outlay. Now, the select board and the school committee may appoint from within their own ranks. The Finance Committee must appoint from within their own ranks. The chairman is not eligible. So, that being said, I'm going to turn this over to our vice chairman, because we had a conversation about this, and put you right on the spot.
Okay. Which part?
We had discussed who we would like to see
Yeah,
as
so-
a representative, and you can start, and then I'll continue with the conversation, and then anybody else can jump in.
Yeah, so I think that, my personal opinion would be to nominate Beth Sulger to serve on the Capital Outlay Committee to represent the Finance Department. It gives, more representatives within the FinCom more opportunity to serve and to participate in other committees. Given the nature of the current Finance Committee bylaw, if you will, we're not allowed to serve on other boards and committees. So, for instance, another member of the Finance Committee is not allowed to volunteer as a resident at large as a member of the Capital Outlay Committee, unfortunately. But I think it makes sense. Beth is more overly qualified for the position, manages at her full-time job, a budget, 10 times Carver's annual budget. So I think Beth is by far the most qualified and most competent to serve as the Finance Committee representative on Capital Outlay. So I'd like to nominate Beth.
I'll second that. The first time I had mentioned, when Beth first joined Finance Committee, we were doing our budget, and she looked at it, and after the meeting was over, she chuckled, and she says, I think at that time was like $10 million, I think was the town's share. And she says, I spend that a week. Yeah, because she's for those that don't know, she's the Director of Finance for Social Hospital. So, she's entirely qualified to serve on the Capital Outlay Committee. So that's been seconded. Anybody else that would like to jump in and serve on that committee? Hearing none. All those in favor of having Beth serve on the Capital Outlay Committee as the Finance Committee representative, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. And she did say she would do it. This was, I asked her first. I didn't want to pin her down.
Thank you, guys. I'm honored to help with capital outlay.
It's going to be, until it gets off the ground, now I'll go back to the town administrator. Have you put the other two members, have you got?
We have one member who has not been appointed but will be. He's one of the gentlemen who has been on the committee who still wishes to serve, but there's still one vacancy. Okay. And honestly, I'd have to check with Elaine to see what we have for applications so far.
Okay.
So that's forthcoming.
So we're pretty much there. I've updated the capital outlay page for the number of members and so forth and so on. I've been given access to it, and I'll update the membership now that it's confirmed. I think I put Andy's there, and I think we got Jim Hoffman. I'm thrilled that Jim is on that committee also, so that's good. That's all I got. I got something else under committee comments, so why don't we go right to the minutes?
Can I make two more comments real quick, Mr. Chairman? The first is that we do have about 15 applicants for the finance director position. The position is appointed by the town administrator in consultation with the chairs of the Finance Committee and the Capital Outlay Committee. As of right now, as you know, we don't have a chair of a Capital Outlay Committee. But at least in the short term, I'll be discussing with Alan to what extent he wishes to be involved, right from culling applications to choosing finalists. I assume he's going to want to do that in interview, but that's something I'll be discussing with Alan, hopefully after the meeting tonight, or if not, in the near future. The other piece of information, and you'll probably want to take this yourself, Mr. Chair, is that the town has purchased a piece of property on Lakeview Street, 44 Lakeview Street. And again, I'm happy to let you speak to it, but I think there's some nuances that people on the committee may not know if you haven't been involved in the process much. The Conservation Commission has an account, it's a land acquisition account by a fancy name. that has been established approximately 15 years ago, maybe longer.
A little bit longer, but yeah.
A little bit longer. And that account was established by special legislation because of something that didn't exist in the state. It was not permissible under current municipal finance laws. And that account was set up so that rollback taxes from 61A properties, those funds would be deposited in this account and could be used by the Conservation Commission without further appropriation for land acquisition of conservation property. Now, and this is not to be insulting, but do people know what rollback taxes are? Because, okay, I just want to make sure, because it's something that's peculiar to farming communities. So, again, I'm just happy to talk about it if people feel they like to have some information on that. So these funds have accumulated over many years. There's about $600,000 available, and the Conservation Commission has voted to expend $400,000 to purchase 44 Lakeview Street, which is a 1.4-acre parcel that abuts the Council on Aging building, which is 48 Lakeview Street. So it's really a great opportunity for the town. We really wanted the next lot over too, but this is a good opportunity. These are, these generational things that I think we're all happy to be a part of. So I'll turn it over to you, and I'll go sit down, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Everybody knows I sit on conservation, so this was a really big deal. This land, this project became available. It was sold. I guess it fell through. Whatever the case was, we took a second position on it, and when it became available a second time, the entire Conservation Commission, and this fund is unique in that it's under the control of the Conservation Commission with no intervention from any other board, committee, or commission, as well as town meeting. Town meeting can't overrule it. Select board can't overrule it. The Finance Committee can't be involved in it. This is their checking account. And it takes a majority vote. I would argue it should be a unanimous vote, but I think it takes a supermajority vote, actually, to it. I know that all 5 members signed the P&S, all 5 members signed the agreements, and it was an attitude of there's no more available land on Sampson's Pond. This house is available. It sits right beside the Council on Aging. This is a no-brainer. It's a house, and then we kind of got mired down in the mud about doing inspections and stuff, and everybody kind of chuckled and said, if the place falls down tomorrow, we're not going to buy this, so who cares? So that's how we ended up with it. So what we can do with it, I don't think we know yet. I believe we can't rent it. We can't subdivide it and sell it. I'd like to see recreation get involved, excuse me, and have something nice on the pond, maybe paddle boats, canoes, Billy Bob's ice cream shop, something like that in there. It gives you, there's a nice parking area that can be part of the Council on Aging. It extends the beach. I think it's a great opportunity, and it's right on the pond. So it became a very simple decision to make, and I think we passed papers a week ago? Week ago Friday. Week ago.
Correct, yes.
So there was no, and actually that vote was taken, obviously the discussions were executive session with Concom, and then the actual vote was in public meeting. So that's on, I believe it's on Area 58's YouTube. So that's awesome. I don't know exactly what we're going to do with it yet. I haven't been inside it yet.
Yeah, the house itself is really nothing special. It's 1850 it was built, but according to Sarah Moore.
So it's not really historical. Right. It's old, but it's not.
That's right. It's only historic because it's old, not
right.
because it has any historical value.
Now, the other one beside it, if anybody's driven down Lakeview Street, whoever bought that house, God bless them, because they're doing a complete gut rehab. So they spent all the money to buy it, and now they're putting all the money into it to bring it back to what it apparently once was. So it's going to be, the value of the surrounding property has no place to go but up, especially if they're doing all of this. And I don't know who bought the middle lot.
Yeah, I don't either. Yeah.
But I know that's been sold, so otherwise I think Conservation would have probably bought that too. We couldn't afford to buy all.
We did have that appraised too. We had that, the lot that we purchased and the lot next to it appraised. in the event we had the opportunity
Yep.
to purchase that, too.
So that's where that's at. Hopefully, we'll see what recreation, we'll have some, I'd like to see recreation get involved, O&M get involved, some best ideas. You especially, because you're so involved with the kids and stuff like that. You know, this needs to be everybody wants the information, you know. Whatever anybody has for ideas and what to do with it, the town can take it. I think we can do stuff like,
Well, there will be a conservation restriction. We have-
yes, but you'll be able to have a concession, you may be able to have paddle boats, you may be able to have canoes,
Yes.
you know. Something for the kids,
Definitely.
you know. I don't know if we can put a dock and stuff like that out there. I'll have to find out from Brooke whether we can do stuff like that on the pond.
Well, again, how it ties in with the current property we own on Lakeview may reconfigure perhaps how that's accessed right now, how the pond's accessed.
Sure.
I don't know. I think that'll be for, greater minds than mine to figure
Yep.
out when the time comes.
So, and for the time being, I believe, the only other question I had from a finance committee standpoint, and maybe Meg can answer this question, is who's paying the light bill?
The light bill?
Since it's owned by the Conservation Commission, I'm confused as to how this becomes part of the municipal light bill. Does Conservation because we have a different fund, a maintenance type of account, would that not come out of that? I don't expect it would be tied into the town's municipal light bill.
I think it would have to be.
I would think it would be the town's municipal light bill, and there's nothing wrong with that. Right now, it's again, we're talking about a trickle of electricity.
I understand that, but it may not always be
But the
that.
town owns, again, conservation is the town. So there are other parcels, other pieces of, that the town owns that I'm sure that we pay bills on those properties. And, in fact, it was just this current year, FY '22, that the town is actually paying the bills for some of the recreation property.
Yeah, that's right.
It made no sense it's still a town board, town controlled property, just like conservation, so those should be absorbed by the town. Now, the best, most cost-effective approach, well, that's obviously something conservation would have to be involved in and have discussions with, but I don't expect that in any time in the near future that there's going to be any significant utility costs necessary.
I don't think so either. And just as an aside, have we gotten an electric bill for the police station yet, the first month?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it could be pending, but
Okay.
I would probably look into it.
I'm interested to see what that is when it finally shows up. Anybody else on the Lakeview property? Any comments, questions? Minutes. For the record, by the way, Pat Keneally is now a firefighter in the town of Carver, which makes him an employee, which makes him ineligible to serve on the Finance Committee, so regretfully, he's had to resign. Kevin Sullivan has resigned because, again, thankfully, his business has exploded, and he just doesn't have the time, so very regretfully, he also resigned, and he hopes to be able to come back if things change in the future. So at this point, we have Sean Morgan is our newest member. So we are now a committee of 9, which means we have a quorum to meet of 5. Because the way our bylaw reads is unique from the other town boards. A quorum is the majority of the current membership. Yes, ma'am.
Just keep in mind too that like that first 2 weeks of July, that you definitely want to make sure you get a quorum for those meetings. We have to do the year
Yep.
first because you only have till the 15th.
Yep, she's absolutely right. For the new members, the first 2 weeks of July is the year end, and there are times when there's balance transfers. What? You're shaking your head.
No, I asked her a
I
question.
asked if I was going to be here, and I said no.
I said, you won't be here. She said, nope.
No, she won't. So it's going to be even more important that we're here because we don't know who's going to be sitting in that chair.
She's still looking out for us.
The state mandates that the books be done by the 15th. The 15th. See how much she's taught me? By the 15th. So it's very important. Typically, we try to hold a FinCom meeting as close to that date as possible without going over it. I don't like to. We did, at 1 year, I believe we had to invoke a rule of necessity because it was at the wire, and we only had 3 members on a 4 quorum because of the size of the committee, and it was, we had no choice. So I would fully expect with 9 members on the board that sometime in those first 2 weeks of July, whenever we schedule a meeting, we will successfully have a quorum. Okay? Now can we go to the minutes? Okay.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the minutes as written. All those in, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Abstain.
1 abstain, yeah, because Greg wasn't here. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, 0, 1. The only other thing that I have is we have an application for a grant from Shane Gives Thanks. I'm going to put that on for either the next agenda or the one after it. I just got to find out when Shane Gives Thanks wants to come in, because part of this grant application is coming in and telling us what you did with the last grant. So it's a pretty simple process, but it lets us keep an eye on, not that we really have to with Shane's, but it lets them come in and tell us what they did with the money, so that, you know, we know how that was done. And that's really required in state law also, and this is something that, for those that are new, this was always done through citizen petitions, which meant you got 10 signatures and everybody was toe tapping at the last minute at town meeting, and somebody got up and said, there's a motion and we'd like to give so-and-so X amount of dollars, and everybody was looking at their watch saying, I'm in favor. And that was the end of it. And it wrote a check, and there was no oversight. So Massachusetts state law, it actually requires that it be specifically used, nonprofit, and it needs to benefit the residents of the town of Carver. So a couple of years ago, town meeting gave that authority to the finance committee. We have a $25,000 fund with a $5,000 limit per applicant, and we sat down for about 4 months worth of putting together the requirements and so forth and so on, and we've tweaked them and fine-tuned them, and so far it's worked out great. So this is the first one for the coming year, and I think last year we never did get social community action. They were supposed to come in, but they never did. I don't know whether they got a lot of federal money they didn't need to. We got the Women's Health Network and Shane's. That was it. So we'll see what we get this year. So I'll put that on for an agenda to come, and when I do, I'll scan this, and everybody will get a copy in their email so they can have a look at it beforehand. And that's all I've got. Any other comments? Any members? Mr. LaFawn.
I would just want to put it out there again that, as this is seemingly always a new committee, hopefully it'll get stabilized, that if any member or members ever want to come in, sit down, go over some, municipal finance 101, whatever we can do to help. It is a strange animal. Those of
Yeah, but Meg's leaving, and we wouldn't come in and talk to you. You don't know what you're talking about. We have to go see Meg.
Meg has taught me well, Mr. Chairman. So if we can be of any help, please don't be bashful. We'd love to help get you off on a right foot, or even if it's, veteran members that have some particular nuanced questions. So that's all I was going to use Meg, going to schedule Meg every hour on the hour until she leaves.
Oh, she stays in speed dial. You're keeping your phone number, right?
What?
You're keeping the same phone number, right?
No, I'm blocking all of you.
So anyway, I just leave it out.
I know where you're working and I know where you live, so that's not going to work either.
If nothing else, I just want to put that out there again.
Okay. You're awful quiet tonight.
I am, a little bit.
Why?
No reason in particular.
You're always quiet. I'm the only big mouth on the committee. Next meeting date. I don't think we really got anything coming up. There's nothing pressing, right? So,
Just end of year transfers eventually.
Should we book?
yeah,
June
so
book
we're
July.
probably going to do, I would expect we're going to do nothing until, well, it's going to really depend on what happens with Meg's replacement as to whether we have a meeting before the end of the year meeting, just to have a
Good point, yeah.
kind of a meet and greet and that kind of thing.
Well,
Really not.
We should at least have a meeting to say goodbye to Meg, show the slideshow, play the music,
Well, I thought we'd do that privately with the cake and.
all that sort of stuff, yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
I was planning on that. Yeah, I don't know what there's, what is your last, what is your,
We'll have salads and.
I believe it's going to be June 11th.
June 11th?
Yeah.
We're negotiating that.
really?
Well, no, my actual last day is July 2nd, but then.
Well, then
I
you'll
have-
be
I
here
still
July
have 5 weeks
1st.
of vacation because of COVID.
You get those after July 2nd.
That's how it works.
We're working on that, Mr. Chairman.
So we might lose you in 3 weeks.
11th, really?
Meg
Well, I am glad I brought this up tonight then.
Meg will be available, she says, as much as possible.
There's no doubt, but
That's on record then.
I don't think we need a meeting between now and then.
Cue the slideshow.
Huh?
Cue the slideshow.
Maybe we will do something for, it'll be nice weather and stuff. Maybe we'll do something out in the gazebo. Pizza and cocktails.
Can they get the band from the high school?
I don't know why not.
You want to go?
This is the single most important person that's leaving the town, in my view. These guys are a dime a dozen, town administrators. Look under any rock, you find 4 of them, go scurrying. But a good finance director is incredibly hard to find, and this lady has got qualifications that run from the top of her head down to the floor and out on a piece of paper someplace. She's got certifications and qualifications, like Beth has got qualifications to do what she does.
That's why I
So-
hired Meg, right, Meg?
It's gonna be a hard act to follow, I know that. Oh, yes, you are. So, what's everybody's pleasure on a meeting? What do you want to do there, Mr. Vice Chairman?
I don't know. I'm at a loss.
Tell you what, we're gonna, everybody remember that we need to have something the first week of July or so. And if anything, if we put something together before then, I'll shoot everybody an email.
Well, July 5th is probably a holiday.
Yeah.
That's the first Monday.
Yeah.
It's just another day of the week.
I know, but is the town hall closed?
Town hall.
Of course, down all is closed.
I'll be here. Ellen and I will be here.
So we'd have to do a different day of the week.
I would imagine we're probably gonna be July 12th,
Yeah.
which gets us before the 15th. It's a Monday.
That's good, because then what you need is you need to have that last payroll posted, so you can see like what the final deficits are. So that's actually that's totally fine.
So July 12th is a Monday. That will work as far as year end?
Even more than the rest of you.
You know what I'm asking.
Yeah.
All right, let's tentatively pencil in July 12th.
I'm in New York.
Okay,
How convenient.
as long as we have a quorum,
Seem fine.
I'm
I'll be
content. Everybody else is good with the 12th?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Does Mondays work for everybody still going forward?
Yeah.
It seems to be the date that we've settled on that doesn't seem to have any conflicts. So I'm content with it on Mondays. I just didn't know if everybody else was. Should we consider changing it? Are we good?
I'm good with it.
7 o'clock, Alan?
Yes, on the 12th? Yeah, if there's any change to that, I'll let you know. That'll be our year end. Any other member comments? Concerns?
I want to take a quick minute while I have a microphone.
About time.
Yep. It's not FinCom related, but since I do have a microphone, I want to take a minute to thank the Carver Fire Department. They responded to a call at my home yesterday, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and in less than 5 minutes, there were 3 people on site in their personal cars, and then the breaker arrived shortly afterwards to respond to what was essentially a mulch fire directly in front of my house at the mulch bed around my porch. It was a little scary for a few minutes, but perfectly fine. Everything is fine. They responded, were very thorough, and took care of everything. We essentially called them because we really weren't sure to what degree the fire was spreading. Essentially, the lesson learned is do not smoke. If you don't smoke, don't let your guests smoke in and around your mulch beds. Don't let them flick ashes near it or anything else. And be very diligent about it. So this particular fire started prior to 2 p.m. on Saturday, and we did not know it was burning until 2 p.m. on Sunday.
That's right.
So it was very, very scary. I learned afterwards that I have a home camera system that had actually responded to motion detection and got the smoke on video. Happening earlier in the day, but unbeknownst to me that the camera was going off, I hadn't reviewed the video yet. I reviewed it after the fact. But again, scary for a few minutes, but I do want to send a sincere thank you to the Carver Fire Department. Everybody was professional and handled it very, very well. And luckily, everything's fine. We don't have to worry. It's a brand new home, so it would have been a shame if something had happened. So thank you very, very much to the Carver Fire Department.
Nice. Sorry that happened.
Thank you.
For those that don't know, mulch is absolute. I used to haul the stuff. You go down the road and you see smoke coming out of the trailer because somebody put it in, it was already burning. And it'll smolder for days.
Yeah, and this wasn't a matter of somebody flicking a cigarette into the mulch bed or putting a cigarette out in the mulch bed. I think this is literally flicking ash into the mulch that caught and smoldered for over 24 hours. Before it reached the point where we knew what was going on. Earlier in the day, we smelt it. I actually smelt it the night before, but thought it was one of my neighbors doing a campfire. Wasn't thorough enough in my own due diligence to determine what it was the night it started, and even the next morning. Thought the smoke I smelt was remnants from a campfire the night before. But turns out it was the mulch at my feet.
Especially when you love all that around the house, nice and close to the house, so it looks real pretty in the shrubs. So,
lesson learned.
Could have been an expensive one. Anybody else? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good night, everybody. Thank you.